Hi everyone, welcome to December. It's here again, and you know what that means. It's time to turn the clothes up to what you might say obnoxious, and still try and get some playthroughs done. So, timestamps are in the description, probably. So I always forget to do that, but hopefully I will remember, because just before we get to all of the games that are coming up and what you can vote on and stuff, let's just do a couple of things first. First of all, the Patreon, so how you get to vote on games and stuff. People support me on Patreon. Give some money every month, or you can do yearly subscriptions now. I think I started mentioning that last year. You can sign up for a whole year if you don't want to do the monthly thing, and you get a discount and stuff. But regardless, Patreon is kind of how all of this happens. So the money I get from people is how I can afford to spend days doing this. Well, not particularly this, playthroughs and stuff. This is night. I'm kind of in a rush night, but that's not your concern. You don't need to be bothered about that. Patreon.com/slickerdrips just reached 100 patrons. Great achievement. Thank you very, very much for everyone that supports on Patreon, but also thank you for watching and subscribing and telling people about this and just enjoying them. Whatever you do, really, thank you for it. As long as it's nice, you get thanks for bad things. But yeah, so Patreon, great thing. Please help keep it going. And the next thing is, why is it all looking kind of sparse and it might be sounding a bit echoey? It certainly sounds echoey to me. I don't know if the camera is picking that up, because the camera itself for these videos has to be further away. That's going to ruin the audio levels doing that now, isn't it? But yeah, it might be a bit echoey and stuff. It's all sparse. All you people that are like, it's not many people say it like it's the majority of people. The people that are like, sick of videos with people sitting in front of shelves full of games. Well, this is your alternative. It's shelves full of nothing. It's walls that are kind of, I don't know, indented with things. Couldn't think of the word for it. But yeah, we're moving house basically very, very soon, in like 3 days, 4 days, some days. We're moving house very, very soon, and we've been here for quite a long time now, and I filmed everything in this house. Not always in this configuration of stuff, but yeah, it's this kind of, my living room has been my filming room. Hopefully, if things go to plan, I will have a filming room. It's going to have to substitute for other rooms as well, but it won't be in our main living room. Point is, hopefully, we'll be able to have things set up nicely most of the time, so it won't be such an ordeal getting everything together to film, and Rach won't have to look at piles of board games and great big lighting and camera equipment everywhere, so everybody wins in there. But yeah, the basic, what does that mean for you, the viewer? Well, it means that I filmed things in advance. I've tried to get a few extra things out while I had the time for it. It turns out that moving is a really time-consuming thing. You spend a lot of time on hold on the phone to people, especially, like, it's probably a bad time customer service wise for trying to move and arrange all of these things, isn't it? But yeah, it turns out there wasn't more time to film more videos, but I have managed to film some extra. So hopefully there isn't going to be much of a gap, because there's going to be a gap for me in terms of filming, because most things are in boxes. After I turn the cameras off here, all of this is going in boxes. And yeah, there's going to be time to unpack all of that. There's going to be a bit of time where we're going to have to cope without the internet. Imagine that. But yeah, I have filmed some extra things, so I know for sure coming up is going to be, not necessarily in this order, Winter Kingdom, the new game from Don Lex Vaccarino, a kind of re-implementation of Kingdom Builder, which is an absolutely fantastic game. Barenpark, Bad News Bears. Barenpark, a beautiful polyomino laying game from a couple of years ago, and the expansion to it adds other stuff, but mainly monorails, 3D cardboard monorails. And yeah, you can see what I think about that at long last. Kind of a video that went wrong earlier in the year, and now it's all fixed. Merv is a big new game from Osprey, and it's designed by Fabio Lopiano, and the art is by Aeon. It looks all beautiful, and it's really thinky and meaty and heavy, and maybe burns out my brain trying to work all of it out. But I'll blame some of this logistics stuff on that as well. And Paleo, the new cooperative game from Hans im Gluck and designer Peter Rustemeyer, where we are Neanderthals trying to make it in the modern world. No, we're trying to make it in the prehistoric world. But yeah, maybe that's the sequel. They're going to try and make it in the world of it's Flintstones Meet the Jetsons, isn't it? Is where that idea is coming from. But they are filmed they're baked and ready to go. Shouldn't use that analogy. It just reminds me of depressing England things. Haven't got long till that happens, have we? Anyway, on to happier things, board games. The vote for this month. Have I said everything that I've already filmed that's coming up? Yes. Things have arrived. I have exciting new games. I haven't played a new board game for a couple of weeks now. Maybe it's coming up to 3 weeks now since I've gotten to play a game. We've played some things online. Actually, not we. I have played some things online. If you want to check out, as well as all my recap stuff, I did there's 2 playthroughs of me on the Gaming Rules channel. You can see me and Paul, or Paul and I, whatever you prefer, play Hallertau, the amazing new Uwe Rosenberg game, in a live playthrough. And we are joined by Adam from Punchboard Reviews, which was last weekend actually, for a 3-player game of Praga, Caput, Regni. 2 of my favourite games so far this year. So you can get extra playthroughs of them. So I've got playthroughs for each of those on the channel already. But hey, who doesn't want an extra one? So this is what hopefully might arrive. Things have arrived. They've had to go straight. They've come in boxes. They've gone into bigger boxes and are kind of sitting in this ominous pile, rather than it being an ominous pile of small board games. Now it's board games in great big boxes. They're just kind of multiplying and growing. So what might come up this month? Well, it depends what you vote for. If you are a patron, then you get to vote. If you're a patron at the voter level and above, you get to vote on the playthrough each month. And it's not just the one that wins. The ones that get a lot of votes as well take into consideration, like, I should probably film that before the ones that nobody voted for at all. So what is going to be on the vote? We have this I can't even talk. The Stygian Society, which is a cooperative game from designer Kevin Wilson. And the thing that drew me to this most of all, this has kind of been on my wish list for years now. I think it must have been on one of Rado's BGG lists years ago when he used to make them. And he still does. Someone else keeps it for him. I don't want to sound like that doesn't exist anymore. But its main draw is that it's this dungeon crawler game, although I kind of understand from reading a few things now, it's not necessarily a dungeon crawl. But it's a cooperative adventure game where we're going to be fighting and stuff, but our actions are determined by a cube tower, which is something that we absolutely love in Amerigo. And yeah, our actions will kind of get put into this cube tower. Whatever comes out is what's available for people to use. But do you want to use these action cubes, or is it better off if you save them for another player's turn? And if you're dropping more in here, it's more likely that enemy cubes are going to come out and they're going to get to do more stuff. Yeah, as is the story for, I won't repeat this a million times, but I'll just say, most of these games have just kind of arrived, shiny, exciting, have not got time, needs to get packed, and we will play this in a couple of weeks. Whistle Mountain is the follow-up to Whistle Stop, and instead of being about trains, it's about airships. And we have this kind of scramble, this kind of build-up of slowly placing airships next to resources to gather up these things, put machines down that will manipulate resources that will get us to do fancier things, all the while building up this kind of grid. And as soon as things get to a certain level, the water level starts rising, and meeples that are hanging onto this scaffolding that are supposed to have been placed on things by us will end up falling off and losing you points. And you want to get basically as high up as possible to try and get your meeples worth the most points. But it's how you kind of gather all of these resources and build the right things at the right time. Do you place your meeples in such a way that when someone places a machine, they're going to have to displace your meeple, which gets them onto the lovely point scoring ledges? We have actually played that, and so hopefully that'll be one of the ones to film, if you want to see it, of course. Wingspan Oceania, new expansion for Wingspan. Absolutely love it. It's one of my favourites from last year. Came out right at the start of 2019, isn't it? So I forget which year it came out in. And this expansion includes new player boards. I know that for sure because it's come in a great big box. New birds, new mechanics. Again, it's one that's arrived. I have been tantalised by and have been denied, but we will get there. Do you want to see some more Wingspan? I do. Magnificent Snow. The Magnificent, a fantastic Eurogame from Aporta Games from last year. From the designers of Santa Maria, another fantastic Eurogame from Aporta Games. It's now got an expansion that adds basically this new magician. It's all about magicians and the polyomino tiles that they lay as camps and stuff. But there's a new magician that has new posters specific to these new tiles that you can put down from, a lot of new uses for clear dice that are wildcard dice but are quite expensive to use in this game. Just a load more uses for them. And this new master tile that everyone gets an extra action, but it's not just a standard one where you're going to draft a die. There are all of these tiles that are randomly seeded at the start of the game that are going to give you potentially really powerful actions to take, and it's about balancing when you do those with your standard dicey actions. We've played that as well. Really excited by that. So that's going to kind of be like, does it get a playthrough or just an overview of what's new? How much do you want to see some more Magnificent? And I could do the solo playthrough this time because it was 2-player last year. Magnificent Snow. Next up, Aeon's End Outcast. Now, I am kind of behind on my Aeon's End stuff. I've got a lot of it. The last thing we played was Legacy. I think we've got is it the New Age was the last box that we need to dig into, because I know it follows on the story from there. And Outcast has just come out and got all this stuff. I'm sure there's a million little box expansions that I haven't got. I want to dive back into some Aeon's End. Would you like to see me do that on camera? Or should I just be doing that in private? Do you want to see everything that is new and exciting about the Outcast expansion for Aeon's End? Because it's a fantastic co-op game and a really brilliant deck builder as well. Speaking of expansions to co-op games, The Spirit Island, Jagged Earth, which is a huge box expansion. There's kind of, I don't know about quite as much in terms of contents, but it's another great big box, the size of the original Spirit Island box. I did a preview for this, well, just an overview, a couple of years ago, it feels like now, with just a few of the new spirits and things, all kind of in its basic, no artwork form, just kind of describing some of these new exciting things. So now we'll get to see it in person, in its full art, its full majesty, and see what all of this stuff is that's added to Spirit Island, because it's fantastic. It's one of the best co-op games, isn't it? It's a pretty heavy one, but yeah, if you love it, there is a ton of stuff just in kind of the base box and its first little expansion. Never mind this enormous new one. Can't wait to see what is in there. Medici, the dice game. I really enjoyed Medici. Not enough that we hung on to it. Kind of fading on my memory of it. It's a Reiner Knizia game. And yeah, it's got a dice game version. I like dice games. I went for it. Would you like to see Medici, the dice game? Not really prepared on that. But again, I haven't really opened these boxes because I knew as soon as you open the box, well, then it's got to be punched out. And while you've punched it out and laid it all out here, we might as well set it up and just start playing it. There's no time for that. Curious Cargo is kind of the follow-up to Pipeline. We're still doing pipey things, but in Curious Cargo, it's just a 2-player game of brain-burning logistics. Potentially, from what I've heard, even more brain-burning than Pipeline was, and that's kind of saying something. So I'm excited to dig into that and see if those claims are true. Kodama Forest, I talked about in my anticipated Essen list. It's set in the Kodama world that we love already, but this is a game kind of along the lines of Between Two Cities or Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, where you are building things up between yourself and a neighbour, and it's kind of your balancing act between the two things that you're doing with either of your neighbours, rather than letting one be brilliant and let one go to pot. You've got to balance them out as well as that person is communicating with you and another person at the other side. With those games, it says that I think it can be solo, but it can definitely be played with two. So how good will the rules be for just playing with two? Will we get to play it with more? Who knows what the rules might be. And next up, Calico, which was that in last month's vote? Calico is another game that I did a Kickstarter video for. It's all about building quilts, so cats will come and sleep on them. Absolutely fantastic tile laying game. I loved it from its Kickstarter version. I've got the final version now. I'd like to do another playthrough, maybe solo this time. Just spread some more excitement. And either way, yeah, I'm excited to see how a lot of things are going to come out in the top 10. But yeah, I was really pumped for Calico. So are you still excited about it? Has the hype finished already? Surely not. There's time for all of these things, isn't there? And finally, I thought I'd put on Praga, Caput, Regni, and Hallertau. I should have done this at the beginning when I was talking about those games. But hey, I've done playthroughs for both of those now at 2 players. I believe Praga, Caput, Regni has a basic solo mode in the rulebook of kind of just play it as it is and beat your own score. It's now got, this wasn't ready when I had the prototype and did my playthrough for it, but it's now ready. It's got Peter, this AI bot that is there to get in your way, so we could do a solo playthrough with the AI rules. And Hallertau works brilliantly solo. It's not that different to the two-player game, but there are a ton of different decks in Hallertau, and we can see a load more cards and stuff. And generally, it seemed like when I mentioned that in the normal playthrough, that people would like to see some more Hallertau. So I'm going to put those on the vote as well. Would you like to see solo for Praga or Hallertau as well? Remember, it's not just the one that wins that gets played through. I know that time is going to be tighter because of this moving stuff, but hey, there's the future is not set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. Is that it? It's close if not. And we'll get as much playthrough as I possibly can. So there we go. This is where kind of everything is kind of set in stone and now gets all packed away and stuff. I hoped I'd have time to film one more playthrough, but it's like 10 o'clock now, I think. It's about 10 p.m. and I need to edit all of these videos to try and get them uploaded before the internet cuts off. So that will be fun, won't it? I hope you'll join me for all of these things that have already been filmed. I'll try and be in touch wherever I can on social medias and things, and Patreon, of course. But hey, we will see each other properly when things are all sorted and things are hopefully fancier and neater and stuff. We'll see how that goes, eh? I hope you enjoyed this little look at what might come up in December, and I hope you'll join me for that stuff. Bye, everyone.